Give it up for DJ!
Wow. That was a really good introduction. All right, how's everyone doing tonight? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. So, my name's Logan. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a senior at Frederick High School. I'm also part of the influencer team here at Rocky Students, and I just wanted to come up here tonight, tell you guys a little bit about myself, how I came here, and then why that's important for you guys to hear. So, growing up, I didn't really have a background in Christianity at all. I didn't even own a Bible. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't Christian at all. I knew who God and Jesus were, but I never really did anything with that knowledge. So I kind of just went by my life without being religious in any way. And starting middle school, that's when it really started to affect me. Because in 6th grade, I was having a hard time adjusting to the middle school life, and it was overwhelming, and I became really lonely, and it led to me going to a depressive state where the only way out of it, it seemed like the best way was to just take my own life, which obviously is not the right answer ever, but really it's just, that's what I thought was right at the time, and I kind of was just lonely, but thankfully my parents were able to find out about this before anything bad happened, and they tried to get me to get better, but right as things started getting better, COVID hit, and we all went into lockdown, and no one was leaving the house, no one could do anything except for play Fortnite or eat chicken noodle soup all day. So that was really hard for me. I couldn't connect with anyone. I was just missing an interaction, and it led to me getting this empty feeling in my chest that just would never go away. And I was sad, and I was hopeless. I really thought, as COVID went on, it really just felt like this was gonna be my life for the rest of my life, and I didn't see any way out of it. And eventually, COVID ended, and I was going outside more, I was interacting with people, but things never really got better. This emptiness and sadness in me, it was only growing. So going into high school in late 8th grade, this feeling I had, it kind of just led to me becoming a bully. And I was doing terrible things to the people who were my closest friends. They didn't want to be near me anymore, and I don't blame them because I was treating them terribly. And it's just, I was doing these things to try and compensate for what I was feeling, but I was doing the worst things I could, and I was making everyone around me worse too because of it. I was making bad choices, and just in general, I wasn't a fun person to be around. And during this time, this sadness feeling and this emptiness feeling, it was only ever getting bigger and bigger. And I was just snowballing and spiraling downhill, and it just was too much to handle. Going into sophomore year, it only kept growing. I started prioritizing really unimportant things. I only cared about getting a girlfriend. My grades were slipping. I just really was like the opposite of who I am today, really. And it shows how much I've changed, but going into the year after sophomore year, that's just when it became too much for me, and I broke. I had no emotion, really. I was sad. I was empty. I had no motivation for anything. It felt like all my friends were leaving, which you can't blame them. I was being a terrible person to them. But yeah, all that it kept spiraling to this summer where it was the worst 2 months of my life, and it really felt like the only way for things to get better was to try drugs or drink alcohol or go party every weekend or just do things that obviously are never going to give you the lasting happiness that I was searching for. And all these things, I was talking to people about it, they made it sound like it was such a good idea. They were always so happy about it. They were enjoying doing it every night. And I was like, well, if they're happy, why wouldn't I be happy doing it? And I never was really able to get my hands on any drugs, which is good. But I was still doing very bad things. I was drinking. I was trying to party as much as I could. And it just wasn't good for me. I had these harmful habits that only provided temporary happiness, but they never gave me the lasting happiness and fulfillment I needed to get out of the state I was in. And I was just becoming dependent on these worldly things that never helped me in any way. So this emptiness feeling just would keep coming back, getting worse, and it just always spiraled, and it was getting worse and worse. And then things started to look a little bit better going into junior year because I met Dom, who's one of my closest friends now. And within 3 weeks of me knowing him, he invited me here to Rocky, to youth group. And I didn't go right away. I was like, that's dumb. What is reading a big book gonna do to help me feel not sad and lonely? Or having these just people around me that are crazy about one thing that I don't know anything about. It was a scary thought, but Dom, he got me to go. And I still remember the second night I was ever, vividly, I still think about this at night. The second night I was ever here, we were in small groups, and the small group leader, he was praying over our group. And during that prayer, it just felt I just felt this warmth and comfort just surround me. And it truly felt like God was in the room, just giving me a hug. And I just knew in that moment, things were gonna get better, things were gonna be okay if I just had this commitment to God, because He knew what I was going through and no one else did. And that feeling that night, I mean, that's one of the best feelings I've ever had. And from that moment on, I completely turned everything around. I was happier, I was more open-minded, I was just more confident in myself, I was grateful for every little thing. And I just began to grow as a person, and I really started to become Christian. And that decision was the best choice I could ever make. I became a nicer person. My friends started talking to me again. They saw that I was changing. They knew I was different. And I told them why I was being the way I was and how things are going to get better and why I'm changing, and that it's from God, and that having God as someone I can always go to is it's reassuring and it's comforting, because He will always know what you're going through, and He will always give you the pleasure or help you need to get through any difficult season. And so yeah, I just lived by that mindset going all the way throughout my junior year, and I started calling myself Christian. I went to church every Sunday. I was reading my Bible every day. I was praying multiple times a day, and I was just a completely new person overall, and it was completely for the better. And I just learned that relying on God is so much better than any worldly thing or sinful habit that you could do to get through these hard times that you're going through. So as my junior year kept going on, I was getting closer and closer to God, and I was really becoming a Christian. And I was cutting out negative influences in my life, and I was taking more and more steps to become who I am today. And that was good. That sadness feeling and emptiness feeling, it was gone entirely. And I was just, I was just happy again. And it felt good. And it was about July. One of my friends from church, he asked if I'd ever considered getting baptized. And I hadn't thought about it at first, but at that time I was I should get baptized. It's what I need to do to get to the next step in my faith. So I scheduled a baptism. And then the next day, I found out, I get the news that my grandpa only has a week left to live. He had leukemia, and it's just it devastated me. And obviously I canceled my baptism because it didn't feel right. And me and my papa, we were best friends. I'm close with all my grandparents, but my papa, me and him were so close, and I wasn't gonna be able to see him until he passed away. The next time I saw him was at his funeral, and that hurt. And I was confused and I was angry because I was just getting to this point in my life where I was a Christian, and I was happy to say I'm a Christian. And I was doing all these things that a Christian should do. And then I'm going through one of the worst moments of my life. And that was angering to me. I didn't understand why this was happening to me, and I got the mindset that I was being punished. And I don't know where that mindset come from, but that's what I had. And I really just because of it, I backed away from God again. And I pushed him away, and I was just angry with him. I didn't understand how this could happen to me at this time. And as soon 2 days after I pushed him away, all the progress I made my junior year to get rid of the sadness and emptiness feeling, it just came back instantly, and it was worse than before. And really, I couldn't describe what I was feeling in this week or two when I just wasn't doing anything about it except for just being upset about my grandpa's passing. And I don't know, I was ready to just give up almost. Not I just wanted to every morning was just, I just got to make it to the end of the day or make it to the end of the week. And I had no motivation for anything really. And it was upsetting to see it all come back. And then one night I was staying up late and I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about my papa. And then I had this it was almost like a voice in my head, almost, that someone, it had to have been God. He told me, he's you're going about this all wrong. And in that moment, I realized that what I was doing was completely wrong. And I need to not go away from God just because I'm going through a hard season in life. I need to embrace him so he can get me through that hard season. And from that moment, I realized that I need to go back to God. So I picked up the habits I had again. I was reading my Bible again. I was praying so much. And I had this one prayer where I just sat down and I prayed to God. And I told him how sorry I was, not only for pushing him away recently, but just how far away I made him in my life, my whole life. And that I needed him at that moment more than ever. And just having him there for me is what I needed the most. And I was ready to ask him for that and for me to sacrifice things that I'd have to for that to happen. And from that moment on, the grieving process, getting over my grandpa's death, I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was much, much easier than what it would have been if I kept what I was doing and just staying away from God in general. I relied on him in these hard seasons, and I knew that doing that would make it easier for me to get through them. And because of it, I started to focus more on the positive of my grandpa's life and who he was as a person and not all the negative parts about it. And it just made it much easier to get through that. And a month after my grandpa passed away, I got baptized. So So I learned that being a Christian doesn't exempt you from all these hard challenges in life. Life just sucks. That's the reality of it. But it can suck less if you have God. And he will always be there for you, no matter what you're doing. No matter how you treat him, he's always going to have a love for you and get you through hard seasons if you're ready to let him do that for you. And that's something that's just important to always keep in mind, even as a Christian, or if you're not a Christian and you're thinking about becoming a Christian, just know that the whole, all of God does is love you. And cherishing that love is what you want to do because it'll get you through all these hard times. So I've made many mistakes before, and turning to God, it just made it easier to get through all these. And he just guided me through life and all these hard challenges I was going through. And I learned that having him at my side is all I really needed, not worldly habits. And it was just a comforting feeling to have and know. And I have 2 Bible verses here that kind of tie into this, just help say it. And they're both from the book of Psalm. The first one is Psalm 16:11. You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. And that verse, it's special to me because I feel like it really just takes away what I learned from the first half of my life. Is just that I don't need to find happiness in all these worldly things when I have happiness and love from God. And that relying on Him will bring you like the happiness that you need. It might not be what you want, but it's what you need. And that's like what's so special is that He will always give you exactly what you need and that He will always get you through those hardships. And this last little bit where it says, at your right hand are pleasures forevermore, that's like really just what cracks down on that. It just shows that all these things, drugs and partying and like drinking alcohol, it's not what you need to achieve the happiness that you want. And the happiness that you want is what you need from God. And then the second verse is Psalm 73:26. My flesh and my heart fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And I feel like that really just goes over what I said during my grandpa's passing. It's like life is going to throw you curveballs and it's going to suck and you're going to have hard seasons. And really just God will always give you the strength to overcome that.